The 5.5 second half banners have been revealed. So in this video, we're going to talk about the 5 stars, the 4 stars, and the weapon banner to help you decide if they're worth wishing on for you. Welcome to Jello Impact, where we build and test every single character to help you decide who you want to wish for and build. All right, the first character I really want to talk about is Xilonen. I've been thinking about Xilonen a lot. On the internet, there's a lot of black and white thinking just in general. And it's really important to take a look at that and be aware that that's going on. And Xilonen is a really great example. A lot of people are saying she's the most broken character in the game. Unconditional buffing, unconditional res shred, works with so many teams. She's a must pull, you need to get her. And then there's a lot of people saying, oh, she's being power crept in all of her niches. Yansan's better for Moika. You've got Chevreuse for Electros. You've got Escoffier coming for freeze. Novelette's going to be better with Escoffier than Xilonen. And so Xilonen has no value. She's not worth pulling. She's not best in slot anywhere. I mean, that's technically true too. Like, not the part that she's not worth pulling, but that she's not best in slot with as many things as she used to be. And I think the thing to keep in mind is Xilonen is one of the best and most universal supports in the game. She's stupid easy to use. She has very little team restrictions. She heals. She works with HP scalers, attack scalers. She works in AoE because her debuff and buff applies to all the enemies. She works in multi-wave because it continues on, and she works with almost every unit in the game. I'm going to be doing an Ask Jello Xilonen video in the next couple days. If you have questions, check out the poll. And also, while you're down there checking things out, please subscribe. We're almost at 100,000. So we'll do like a deep dive into all the different teams and to when Xilonen might be worth it. I think if you're planning on pulling Xilonen for like hyper meta, like you're trying to make the very best min-maxed teams possible, sure, there might be an argument where you might consider not getting her. But for so many players, her ease of use, the amount of teams she buffs, she's a very safe pull. You can almost guarantee a spot for her on your account. It's very unlikely that there'll be an account that can't use her. The only thing that I think people really should consider is maybe Escoffier might be better. And that'll be, I think, a big part of my Ask Jello Xilonen video, is really doing a proper deep dive of Xilonen versus Escoffier. Maybe that's the main focus of that video. Because if you're pulling strictly for certain characters such as Novelette, it does seem like Escoffier is boosting. If you're pulling for a cryo character, sure, Escoffier is the better pull. But then again, Xilonen buffs both Novelette and Geo characters. It's not like Novelette needed a ton more damage to clear the Abyss. Even though it is a solid buff for him, it's not like he doesn't clear right now. And he's so flexible, it's very possible that there's a new best in slot character down the road. And of course, there's always two sides of the Abyss. It's very reasonable that you're using Xilonen on one side, Escoffier on the other, or any of the other options. I think the reality is, I guess this is really something to consider, is there's just a lot of really good buffers in the game nowadays. Back in the day, when I first started playing, every single showcase team was using Kazuha. Just like every single one. And so if you wanted a good team, you basically had to get Kazuha. Now, we've got tons of really good buffers. We've got Yansan, we've got Chevreuse, we've got Xilonen, we've got Escoffier, we've got Farina, we've got Bennett, of course. I don't know if I said Lali. There's just so many more strong options nowadays than there used to be. And I think people are used to looking at supports as like, oh, that's the best support, you have to get them. Or, oh, that support got power crept on that team, now they're useless. And you never know what happens in the future. Maybe there's another broken Geo character that comes out, and now Shilonen's best in slot on a bajillion teams again. That's sort of what's happening with Farina, is way less best in slot on a bunch of teams, with the release of Xilonen especially. And then all of a sudden Escoffier is coming out, and now she's best in slot on a bajillion teams again. The same thing could happen with Xilonen. Say we get a Chiori that's actually broken, or we get a Geo DPS, which I feel like we're coming about due for another Geo DPS at some point. And just imagine how strong a Geo DPS could potentially be in this economy. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you're using a Hydro or Cryo character and you would specifically like to buff those, you should generally lean towards going for Escoffier. And if you're looking for a more general support and you're just lacking in supports on your account, then you pretty much can't lose by going for Xilonen. That's like my general recommendation. If you want specifics, join the Discord. Our helpers are really helpful, and they can help you look at your actual account and help you figure out which pull is actually the best, because there's so many things to go in. Plus, I will do a deep dive on Escoffier versus Xilonen, and hopefully be able to answer exactly when each one is better now that we have a better idea. So I'll do that in the next couple days. But for those of you who think that Xilonen is a must pull, like she's amazing, like she's the best thing since sliced bread, everyone should get her, everyone has to get her, I do want to put a little bug in your ear and sort of play both sides. Consider the fact that the two best teams in the game after Escoffier releases will be Moika Hyper on one side and Novelette on the other side. Granted, both of those teams will want to use Citlali, which you can't do. But I was going to say neither of them use Xilonen, right? And the third best team, which is probably Veressa, also doesn't use Xilonen. So there is some sort of like mention to be made about how she maybe isn't as top meta anymore, but also I'm not sure what you exactly do with your Novelette, like, because the team would be Novelette, Escoffier, Citlali, Farina. Moika really needs Citlali, so then who do you put on Novelette's team who has Scroll and who has, you know, that, but then if you put Xilonen on that team, then you're losing Escoffier. So like, does it really work? Is that really like, can you really say that Xilonen was crept out of Novelette's teams? Maybe if you don't have Moika on your account, but you did pull Citlali somehow? Or maybe there's another character that's still better. I don't know. It feels very theoretical. It feels to me like, yeah, theoretically, Xilonen is maybe crept out. She's not as best in slot. But in practice, you can always slot her in. And even if she's not technically the best in slot for Moika Hyper, she's still the most comfortable. She's still the most consistent. She's still the easiest to use. Can you really say that she's been crept out of those top spots? I think I'm leaning towards the fact that Xilonen is still really excellent, but if you're really hyper, sweaty, min-max, wanting to get only the best in slot for everyone, maybe you can get away without Xilonen. But again, I refer you to what if, you know, another strong Geo character. So, I don't know. I'm really interested in discussion. I don't think there is one right answer. I think it is a nuanced topic, and it's going to be very account dependent, and whatever, depending on what you specifically value, will determine. So again, I recommend my Discord for specific help. Okay, so that's Xilonen. Venti, you just don't pull unless you're an Archon collector, unless you want to collect Venti. There's some cope going around perpetuated by me that maybe old characters will get a buff, but we've heard announcements for Honkai Star Rail, maybe for Zenless Zone Zero. I saw something about that, but I didn't really look into it. There is a chance that old characters get buffed. I think Venti would be first up for buffs, but the fact that we're talking about this as the first thing just goes to show how bad the state of Venti is right now. I would never dissuade anyone from getting a character that they love. You got to pull for who you like. It's very, very important. But Venti is really, really not useful in terms of a meta pull. And he's also power crept in terms of an exploration pull. I don't think his sucky suck is nearly as useful as it used to be. Even in domains, even on early floors of the Abyss, it's not as useful as it once was. Yeah. He's feeling very, 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 very dated. I mean, he is the first limited character. He had his day to shine, and now we're here. So don't pull him unless you like him. For the supports, obviously we've got Faruzan for some reason, because crit Venti, I guess. I don't know. Like, I'm so sorry. Hopefully Xiao wanters, like, Xilonen doesn't go with Xiao, obviously, but hopefully if you have Xiao that your other team wants Xilonen, and you go for a C6 Faruzan. I mean, hey, Xilonen C2. Really good constellation, Xilonen C2. Maybe as you're going for Faruzan C6, you pop a Xilonen C2. Woo! I mean, hey, better than Venticons, right? That is a really, really weird choice by Hoyoverse to put Faruzan of all characters on a Xilonen Venti banner. Very, very strange. Don't like it at all. Not a fan. Should have been on the last banner. I mean, I get that the last banner was full of appropriate characters, but geez, Faruzan, come on, man. Like, this would have been a great time for a choose your own 4-star banner. I mean, there's a lot. We won't get into that. Faruzan is a must at C6 for Xiao and Wanderer and nobody else. If you don't have C6, you can use Xilonen, I do encourage you to wish on this banner for copies of Faruzan. I know I never encourage people to wish for 4 stars, but in the case of Xiao and Wanderer, you pretty much have no choice if you're make a good team, but to get C6 Faruzan. So Xilonen is a solid banner to work on that, right? It's solid. It's not as good as like going for Shenhe C2, but at least you're getting a strong character for your second side. So yeah, that's that. Yanfei, I haven't liked Yanfei all that much. I kind of didn't mind her a little while ago. I don't mind her in like double Hydro Bennett with Farina Yelan, but it's like it's definitely fallen off. It doesn't feel great. She did get a little buff with Novelette's weapon, but she's kind of fallen off as a DPS. It feels like she can't really utilize melt properly, and her vape is just not as good as it used to be. And her supportive playstyle is also not as good as it used to be. Off-field pyro application is sort of the name of the game right now, and so for her shield doesn't apply any pyro, makes it just sort of worse. Beto is a character that everyone always wanted to be good, but just never end up used on very many teams. Because she's so energy hungry and and she doesn't work with raiden, and she doesn't work in single target. So it's like, in theory, there should be situations where Beidou is great because she has a good kit, she has defensive utility, she has damage, she's off field, but her energy needs and her sucking in single target really make her use cases very limited. I can't remember the last time I used Beidou or even tested Beidou with a character. She's just very, very hard to use because so often there's a bunch of single target stuff that you've got to deal with. And she just needs so much energy. But that being said, I mean, you can do... And also, there's just so many other electro supports, right? Now we have Auroran, we have Fischl, we have Yansan, we have, I mean, even Yoimiya. We have so many other electro off-field supports. It's like one of the most prevalent types of characters, it feels like. So Beidou just often is outshone due to her restrictions, basically. But as a kit, you know, if you want to use her, she's got some stuff going on, but... Overall, these 4 stars are very much lacking for most people, pretty much useless. That being said, if you want to go for Xilonen, if you want to go with Venti, I'm a big fan of just not worrying about what the 4 stars are and just going for the 5-star anyways, because unless you're maining a character like Xiao, Wanderer, Cloran, Varessa, like characters that rely on very specific 4 stars at high constellations, I'm not a fan of making sure you go for good 4 stars. I just don't think it's worth it. See my 4-star problem video. Because of that, on average, it takes almost 3 5-stars to get, like 3 limited 5-stars. Like on average, it takes 3 limited 5-stars to get 1 C6 4-star. It's 38 pulls on average to get a copy of a 4-star. That's crazy beans. So yeah, I'm a fan of just sort of ignoring that. And if you want Xilonen, get her. If you want Venti, get her. The weapon banner, kind of a completely different story. We have Peak Patrol Song and Elegy for the End. I really, really like both of these weapons so much. Like, so much. I'm passionate about these weapons. Whether or not you should go for a weapon is very account dependent. If you're an enjoyer of strong teams and maxing out your characters, then I do recommend the weapon banner. It's cheaper now, much cheaper than it used to be. This sword is great for Xilonen, but it also works on other characters. Works on Albedo and Chiori, but basically you're giving all elemental damage bonus up to 25%, which is frankly pretty solid. It's not better than like a constellation of a character, but it is more flexible. It works with lots of teams, you know? So like an early constellation of a really strong character is going to be better than a 26% damage bonus, but this is a very, very flexible and universal buff. So it's very, very nice. If you don't have a very fleshed out account, I don't recommend going for weapons regardless. Like you've got to have your characters done. Like you've got to have like a solid account before you start going for weapons. But I think this weapon banner is good. I end up using Peak Patrol Song and Elegy for the End very, very often. Let's look at Elegy. I often will use it on my Auroran, but I also use it on Kujosara. Giving energy recharge and giving an elemental mastery bonus and an attack bonus is really good. It's so universal because almost every supportive bow character wants to use energy recharge, and so many characters need elemental mastery, and if they don't, they often need attack. So it's very few teams that can't use one of those buffs. And how good does it look with Auroran? That's just incredible. Incredible drip. So it's like, should you rush out and should I like wish on this banner? Should everyone go for this banner? No. But if you're sort of either a Dolphin player or if you have your characters pretty solid, like this is a good opportunity to get a guaranteed upgrade for your account and a flexible upgrade, fairly flexible upgrade, relatively cheaply. Because we've also got Favonius Lance on here, Favonius Bow. I mean, I would have liked to see this be Favonius Sword instead of Sacrificial. Favonius Codex is pretty good. The Bell is useless, but almost all Claymores are useless. This is like a relatively universal, guaranteed, cheap upgrade, basically. It's not like the best thing since sliced bread. It's still better to get a weapon or an early constellation of your like really strong DPS character, but they are universal and flexible buffs, and you'll probably always use them, right? Like Xilonen, unlikely to go out of style. Elegy for the End, very unlikely to go out of style. There's not that many really good supportive weapons in Genshin Impact, and so to have both of them here, and you can guarantee them with 65 wishes, 65 to 75 wishes, basically. And you can guarantee like a solid upgrade. It's not bad. It's worth considering for people who have their accounts, characters very, very fleshed out already. I wouldn't recommend it to a new player. I wouldn't recommend it to, yeah, I mean, the more I think about it, I know I was like really excited about it at first because both of these are so good, but there's actually probably not that many accounts that will end up wishing on it, but for those that will, it is very, very nice. Does that make sense? Like, I wouldn't say go out and wish on this, but it's a pretty cheap guaranteed upgrade. So that is what I think of the banners. It's weird. They are weird banners. Bad 4 stars, good 5-star weapons, but not crazy. Xilonen is extremely universal still, but not best in slot, but probably still worth it for most accounts. But there's question of whether she'll be power creep. It's very tricky. It's very interesting. But I think most accounts should probably still get Xilonen, probably, but maybe, but I don't know. I'll have to think about it more. And I'll make that video on Xilonen versus Escoffier, and I think that's when, and I'll make sure that that comes out before the banners release, and that's when I'll really have a really firmed up opinion on this. So let me know your thoughts. Subscribe if you want to support the channel, and if you don't want to do that, it's totally fine. Just watch the video has been more than enough. Thanks so much. Bye for now.